What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today is going to be a special episode because today we're going to go over really a lot of things that are breaking and coming out as they come out. We're going to actually talk about all of this. We're going to conversate with you guys, and as things pop out, of course, now Milton has made landfall. So it much earlier than expected, mind you. It ends up that there's already flooding before it even made landfall. There were over a dozen tornadoes. Some are saying as many as 16 tornadoes. We've got some really crazy images of that to show you. So today is going to be a good one. So get your popcorn, stick around, because this is absolutely nuts. Now, of course, throughout the show, we'll kind of touch on a couple other things that are popping into the news, a couple other updates. So let's just hang out. And let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so first of all, let's I do need, I think, if Dex, if you can, grab the chat link, because I'm going to need to. I'm actually going to show chat here, and I'm going to pop up, and we're gonna have a conversation about all of this. Obviously, if you've been watching our show, we've covered, of course, Helene, which Helene absolutely wrecked North Carolina. There is a lot of chatter about just the absolute mess that is. In fact, today, Sheriff Wright and I think another sheriff, I forgot what their name is, but they ended up doing a public statement online. And I do not know who the interviewer was, but essentially said that the government can go and basically shove it because they said that they are getting more help from the people around the mountains than they are from the people that are, of course, running the show. So lots of unhappiness around the way that North Carolina has been handled. Of course, you have one of the largest evacuations going on right now as we speak. Obviously, a lot of people are already into Georgia and into other states. They said that everything south, as of last night, everything south, every single hotel that you can think of south of Atlanta, which is incredible, is now booked. So people are now all over the place. They're camping in the Motor Speedway, parking lots. I mean, it's insanity. And this is something that, of course, we as humans don't control. But again, it is something that a lot of people wonder about. Why the heck, the luck, the sheer luck of how everything is hitting these very, very incredibly specific areas. And it's really quite sad. Dex, as somebody who lives in Georgia, have you noticed, are there more people, cruising through town, or, is this something that a lot of folks notice in Georgia, that everybody is coming up there from Florida?
Well, I think the folks that I've talked to that have noticed are the ones that needed hotels. And I mentioned this the other night, and it's still going on as we speak. There's a lot of people who just work on the road, and their normal job is, go out for a couple of days on a job site, and they spend the night in a hotel, work the job site for 3 to 4 days, and then come back. I've got a handful of friends that, they're pretty much on the road in the South, and a lot of times they're working in Georgia, and none of them can get their work done now because they can't even find a hotel room. It was kind of funny, is one of them told me a story. They had to drive down into Florida, against the grain, so to speak, and get a room 2 nights ago, because which was safer because the hurricane hadn't come in at that point, because they couldn't find anywhere to stay in Georgia. They literally went to another state to sleep.
Well, the whole thing with all of this, and it's really incredible the size of this. Now, of course, somebody just texted me and they said, oh, luckily it's down to 120 miles. The size of the actual storm is now so much bigger than it was. When you actually look at the radar, this is covering such a crazy wide area. If you actually look at the map, it is covering, at first it was like a third of, we all looked at it and it looks like it's going to cover a third of Florida. It looks like it is enveloping all of Florida on the radar. This is really incredible. I don't know if you've ever been through a storm with 70 or 80 mile an hour winds, but 120 miles an hour is absolutely insanity. A lot of folks, think it's like the disaster movies that, Category 5 hits. The Category 5 has now reduced, and then it reduces again, and then it turns into a tropical storm. Sometimes, extra tropical or tropical extra, whatever they call it. But in this form, this is going to cause flooding all across the state. You're going to have flooding in so many of these areas that is so bad, and we already saw this. Many of you probably were watching different news channels, seeing that, they of course, they have these people getting emotional on camera. I wonder how many of these are legitly getting emotional, and I think some of them are, because the scenes that you actually see down there are really bad. Now, there's independent journalists there that I have seen that made me emotional. That in North Carolina, they still have missing kids. There was like 160 unaccounted for children. Like that's horrendous. And this is now after Helene. Now we're heading into Milton, and everybody's just kind of bracing for how bad this is truly going to be. So we have lots of different clips. The tornadoes, though, that was what's insane. That was straight up out of an apocalypse film. Just really, really incredible footage here. I'm gonna switch to this for a second here, and then I'm gonna pull this down. And let's see here. I'm gonna try to pull up the chat here in a second, and then we're gonna go over to you guys and see what is going on with you guys. Now, there's a bunch of you that are in Florida. How is it with you? Are you guys okay? Obviously, in North Carolina, a lot of people have had problems with the response, mainly because they're saying, oh, well, a lot of us have talked about the $750 that they were supposed to receive. Well, a lot of folks talked about it as if every single person part of this North Carolina thing was receiving $750. When in reality, a lot of the independent journalists that are on the ground have talked to many people, and I've seen videos of them going up to several person after person after person, and they're saying that they applied, but they didn't actually get approved. So we're sitting here all arguing about how pathetic it is that they get $750. Well, think about it if they don't even get the $750. Honestly, Dex, do you think it's crazy that I guess a lot of us assume that almost everybody that was in the wake of this could just easily do it, but then they're also telling us that, oh, well, all you have to do is grab a phone or a computer and apply for it. How many of these people have a phone and a computer? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, exactly. Like they have any connectivity right now, especially in some of these areas where they don't even have power. So very frustrating.
Now, as far as let's talk about, we have a couple live streams here, and we're going to go, this is Jimmy's Crow's Nest, and this is actually earlier. So let's fast forward to live right now. And this is, let's see here. Let's catch up to live. Obviously, you can see that as we go through these, you're going to see the weather getting worse and worse and worse. It is really, really incredible to see some of the action here. And then actually, well, I'm gonna have that paused for a second just so it doesn't mess up the other things. So let's go over to the next rad thing here. Let me see here. And let me turn this one off. Okay. So Dex, do you want to talk about the next rad? And by the way, Texas, look at all these weird little beams coming out of Texas. Jeez. I'm going to refresh this about every 10 minutes for you guys. And then Dex, if you can talk about in general what people have been saying about the landfall, and I'm actually going to pull something up here.
Yeah, so it's actually on land now. And the interesting thing is a lot of people were worried, about the front of the eye wall as it came into land. But if you kind of look even on this next rad, you can see the intense red area above the eye wall that is basically about, let's call it 10 o'clock on the clock of the eye wall. That's sort of the backside and the north side of the storm of the eye wall. And that's where the biggest amount of intensity is, at least as far as the bad weather, the heavy rains, and the strongest winds. So they're suggesting that even though some of the people that may have had the direct eyewall hit, it's right above the eyewall that's going to get that nasty sort of secondary hit that comes through after the fact. And not only that, some areas here have had, like, I don't know, 10 inches of rain already from this before we get to the massive winds and the rest of the hurricane part. And I know a lot of people in some regards go, yeah, but it's just a 3 now. It's not that. It got really wide. It got really powerful. And the storm surge has been constantly pushing. As this storm has been moving, it's been pushing the water. The wind has been pushing the water inward. So that surge is just as important and just as powerful to pay attention to, more so than just whether or not the winds are a Cat 3 or a Cat 5. Certainly the winds make a difference when it comes to, say, your roof and the trees breaking, but it also, at least in like the Tampa area, and obviously I think the eyewall, as they said, has hit Siesta Key. So from that area up to Tampa, the storm surge is going to be probably the biggest breaker for a lot of folks there.
Brian and Debbie McCartney says if they declare an emergency, they will take property by eminent domain. One other thing, and I don't know if that was Boogaloo or somebody else that said that, but the 750, many people are saying that this is a loan. Dex, have you heard if that is confirmed? Because everyone is saying that this is not it's not a free 750. If it is true that it is a loan, some others are actually saying it's actually connected to your land. Now, that is not, as far as I'm concerned, I can't confirm that. But if that is absolutely true, that would only feed into the thoughts about what is actually going on right now. Think about if you lost your whole livelihood, your whole house, your car, your everything, and then all of a sudden you couldn't pay back a $750 loan and then lost whatever was left of it. That's pretty insane. Now, many people are talking about the area that this is in. The area that, of course, was NC and others was a really kind of heavy area and was an area that the other parties have been trying to buy the land for other purposes, mining specifically of different things that are going to go into batteries that are going to power our future. But again, a lot of people there will not sell. So that's what people are talking about. That is general kind of the thoughts that have been put all over social media. I don't know what is true, but I do know for something that I believe is true is the response to all of these events have been absolutely horrendous. I mean, even if you go back to in Maui and in Hawaii, it's like these events where you have people basically running from the disaster and then them turning people around and saying, nope, you got to go back into it. It's just really a whole nother kind of bag of worms. So, and then this was actually a tweet, and this was from a video that essentially a drone flew up and caught this tornado above Florida. Now, there was over a dozen freaking tornadoes. There's actually another one that we will be looking at here in a second. Let me see if I can find that one, where it actually goes across a freeway. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. Dex, do you remember which one it was? The freeway one where the tornado goes over the freeway, or is that something?
I think that was the Facebook one, not X.
Oh, you are right. So, large tornado crosses Florida highway from Milton. Let me make sure I've got this up here. Let's see.
And we should take all of this video with a grain of salt because there's a lot of people putting videos up from past events. Yeah. So, I want to put that out there just in case somebody goes, oh, that's from so-and-so. It may be.
Yes.
If nothing else, it's impressive.
And I want to remind people, every time any kind of big event happens, you have people that are trying to take advantage of a disaster and use it for clicks. I mean, heck, if people are willing to pour milk on themselves in a grocery store just to make people cringe, then yeah, people are going to post up stuff and try to reuse old stuff. Specifically last year, it was like I saw this one video that even mainstream news used, which was a clip from a New York substation kind of exploding, and everybody used a crappier clip that somebody purposely took, used it, downgraded the quality of it so you could barely see anything, and then used it again, and everybody was sharing it around like it was new. And what's funny is myself and everybody in our audience, we all caught it right away because it was something that we had a different theory about a few years back about blue light and how it was just super crazy that, that blew up at a gas station and all of that, if you remember that. It was a weird New York storm where you had the blue in the sky, and it was creepy video to say the least. But then they reused it for 10 other things. It's like the mainstream media, what's so funny is half of the people in our country right now are basing their beliefs on things they're hearing from a channel or channels that essentially get caught up almost every single day using using bad or horrible videos, and you expect them to have whole departments trying to verify things and fact check things. And you listen to the same people that do interviews and say, oh no, that's been discredited. That's not real. No, the laptop, that's fake. And then you just wait a couple months and it's like, where are the retractions? Like Leslie Stahl that interviewed T-Man, it's like, where are the retractions? Where are the apologies for the stupid things that they get wrong? I'm an independent, and if I get things wrong, if I show you a bad video, I'm going to put up another video. I'm going to correct it. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry. That's how it should work. That's how all journalism should work, because we all make mistakes. We're all human. But not MSM. They don't ever, almost ever make a retraction unless they legally have to do so. I mean, heck, what's his face? James from Mr. Keefe. He has had several newspapers make retractions, but that's only after he has to go to court to do it. It's just crazy when they can say whatever they want, and as long as it's with the general kind of bandwagon, they get away with it. But this tornado, supposedly from this event, crosses over the actual highway. And it's so crazy. You can see thousands of birds flying ahead of it. And you see they're trying to leave it. The webcam kind of scrolls over here, and then you see it essentially moving over and past and over the highway. I mean, this is just insane. And events like this, as you can see, there's cars right there. I mean, people were driving through and they have no idea what's there. And to see this thing, I mean, look at that. Imagine seeing that in person. This is monstrous. This is something out of an apocalypse movie. Now, I don't know what category, tornado that was, or EF whatever. But, man, if I saw that, even in the Spectre things, look at the size of that truck compared to the size of that storm. How incredible. Lori Smith, what is going on? Big Old Twister. Cherokee Survival, what is going on? Hey, nice to see you guys. Brian and Debbie McCartney. Rick Smith, this one is so good. Saw it live on Max. I mean, isn't that incredible? I mean, what we are living through, and I guarantee you we're going to see stuff talking about how this is what we're going to see in the future. Dex, do you remember that movie the movie that came out with Gerard Butler a few years ago? What was that called? Do you guys remember it here in chat? It was about natural events, and in the future they have a satellite that basically controls everything, and it was built, and it was made to control all of the... Geostorm. That is right. Geostorm. Gosh, if you haven't seen that movie, it's one of those movies that they like mass produce. They put every dollar into the quality of how it looks and everything else. But I mean, the acting is subpar, everything else. But the graphics, explosions, all of that. No, Perfect Storm's a good one, but Geostorm is much newer, and it's specifically about a kind of a thought. And it's like, we're almost seeing like they're setting us up to tell us that they need to do that. Not to mention they've been talking about all of this stuff in space, all of the things that have been talked about on the internet for years, and people kind of looked at them like they were kind of cuckoo. Now you have them coming up with plans and legitimately coming out to the people, to the public now, saying, hey, this is getting worse and the world is going to get much, much hotter. And we may have to do this to buy ourselves time for us to transition into, off of fossil fuels. They're telling us we have to transition from gas and from fossil fuels and everything else. And we have to transition into lithium and electric and all of this kind of stuff and clean energy, right? Well, with that being said, how are you going to do that in such a short time period if they say it's going to happen so fast? Well, they say that they need to possibly go and start basically fiddling with the planet. And if you've ever seen the show Snowpiercer or the movie Snowpiercer or the books, it talks about a world that essentially they had this same change happening and they tried to fix it with, I think it was YW7 or something. It was something they shot up into space and everything goes wrong. And the YW7 is actually what ended up freezing the Earth. They were trying to stop it from getting hot, but they ending up freezing it 10 times worse than it would have been, right? Well, isn't that not a fear with what they're trying to do or what they're saying they're going to do? I mean, it's insane. But I guarantee you these massive storms, that is going to be the ticket and that's going to be the topic. And you're about to see this used in debates for the next 3 years and the NC event and North Carolina event and Florida. It's really incredible what's actually happening here. All right, and then let me see here. I'm going to go over to this real quick. Let me see. And see if I can pop this up. All right, so I was gonna pop over to Nextrat too. Let's see here. Crisis solution. Yes, exactly. All right, and then Dex, do you want to pop over and look at some of these tweets and introduce, you found about 3 of these. Do you want to talk about those? Specifically, do you have the one from Eugene, flooding in the streets of Punta Gorda, Florida?
Yeah, I mean, this one's one of the scenes. You can get an idea of what it's like with that surge or the flood water, depending on whether or not if it's coming over the shoreline onto land, or if it's flooding from the canals or low-lying areas where the massive amount of rainfall has dumped. But this is the scene all across Florida right now in various different areas.
Now, there's one of the next ones is Pulse Media Network, amazing footage of the International Space Station. So, so this is when was this? And now we're gonna look up some breaking stuff right here in a second.
Yeah, this looks like it's obviously before the eye wall hit. So I'm gonna go with at least a few hours before the eye wall hit, maybe 5 hours at best. But you can see that eye wall sitting out in the middle of the ocean or the Gulf on its way in. But look at all that lightning that's coming off. I think a lot of that might have been the tornadic storms we were seeing, and the intense storms that came off those bands. So the hurricane is going to continuously put off these bands of powerful weather that just keep circling around, and they kind of whip out. And that that major band that went across is one of the ones that caused all the tornadic activity.
Now, how did they get these shots? Are they overlaying just the fake outline of Florida? And then what do they actually claim that this is? Satellite photos or something? How did they get this time lapse?
It's a camera time lapse from I think it's from the ISS, or it's from another satellite. I don't remember where this one was from. It's probably the ISS. And yeah, of course, that's just an outline overlaid, so you know where Florida is in reference to the image.
I mean, gosh, and so even right there, that's where, so this is before landfall. Can you imagine being in that area if that's what the lightning was like? I know that is over probably hours, right? But look at how crazy that is. Now, we've had some bad storms here. I'm in Washington, so honestly, a lot of the hurricane stuff that happens throughout all of this, up until recently, I haven't had friends or family that were kind of in the way of them. Now I have had friends and family in this. And as I've said before, One of our groups of friends, they all moved out to North Carolina for a cheaper life. This was quite recently, and I talked about how, obviously with inflation, everything else, a lot of people are moving. Well, in this case, it was kind of rare because it wasn't only the stepmom. The stepmom ended up helping the whole family, the entire family, move. So I believe it's because they had extra money. They sold their house. So they ended up helping the daughter, the brother, the others. So the whole family. The one thing that was keeping them from moving was family. The same thing in my case. Like, it's hard to move, but Washington is so expensive. It is absurd. So they moved from Washington to North Carolina right before this happened. I mean, it was, I think it was August or late July or something. No, it was August 3rd, I think. August 3rd or 4th. So they moved there right before this disaster, and they were going to end up being in the same place in Asheville. And the daughter, the person I have known forever, they ended up moving about 40 miles away, and they did not get hit by the worst of it. They did get, put in a really bad spot where I guess they're far enough away that they could. But the others did. And either way, they didn't have cell or internet until just probably 4 or 5 days ago or 4 days ago or something like that. And that was only because they had access to a Starlink that a lot of people were using. In fact, all these neighbors were sharing the same Starlink, which one of them brought in by, I think it was like one of them had to do like a ATV / and then a boat trip to get them one. So this whole thing was just insane. So I haven't had this been affected by this up until recently. And it does give you a different perspective. And it also tells me that a lot of us really don't care when it's happening to somebody else. And that's the really harsh truth about it. When events happen somewhere else, like that, I was thinking about that Beirut explosion. Imagine living there and having family members or somebody perish. With New York, the reason why a lot of us felt that is because everyone knew somebody that was either in that building or responded to that building. Even across the country, it's like everybody knew somebody that lost somebody in that event in 2001. So it's like it's only when it really affects you that you really realize how bad it is, and that's sad. We should be looking at this as a whole. It just shows where we are as a people. A lot of the times, we're just so caught up in our own bubble that we don't realize that other humans just like us are suffering through some of the worst disasters you could possibly go through. Dex, you have experienced these hurricanes, and as far as some of the bad ones, I mean,
they can be bad and not even be hurricanes. I remember being in Sanibel Island, and it was a tropical storm, and it was cool because I was like, oh man, I get to experience one, but it wasn't hitting us; it was hitting north, and we stayed. We didn't go anywhere, but sure enough, a tornado came in off of the water from that storm, and then actually took the air conditioning unit off of the, little 2-story like condo place on Sanibel Island that we were staying at the time, and threw it into the parking lot. Fortunately, our vehicle didn't get smashed by it, but the other vehicle about 2 spots over did. And then, of course, we all had to leave because there was no longer a roof on the building, and our vacation was ruined. Even though the calm after the storm is actually, the calm before the storm is cool, and the calm after the storm is really beautiful. It's always a great day after the hurricane comes through. So, except for the damage you have to deal with, but from a weather point of view, it was so nice. But yeah, it was pretty. At the time, for me, it was just a tropical storm, and it wasn't even hitting us. It was kind of cool because it was big waves where you don't normally see it, nice breeze, all that stuff. But then, of course, the storms came through, and the tornadoes happened. But Adam, if you go back to that satellite image or that space station image, whatever it was, it kind of shows the breadth of how large the storm is. And then I'd like to contrast that. If you see how big this is, now you can grab the webcam from the southernmost point in Key West. I think I have that one highlighted. So for those of you that don't know, Key West is at the very bottom of Florida. It's that little chain of islands that works its way down almost to Cuba. Well, not really, but it's headed that direction. This webcam is from the southernmost point. again, people are kind of like me. They're enjoying the fact that there's this storm going on, but they're not in danger. But just pay attention to the size of the wind and the waves that are crashing in. Of course, they're having fun with it because it's relatively, I guess, safe where they are, but they're way south away from the storm. And that's the effects they're seeing there. And this is normally very calm. This is the Caribbean-ish almost. It's, I guess it probably technically is because it's that very, very southern water way below Florida. But the southernmost point in Key West, that's live right now. That's what people are doing. They've been doing it all day. They've been out there taking pictures, enjoying the big splashes from the massive waves onto the crest there.
Now, again, I'm sure a lot of other people are thinking, or they're, idiots. If they were in the really bad spot, it's been nonstop flooding. Earlier today, there was a spot that was so badly flooded that the people were boating around from house to house, and they had there was a small U-shaped lake. And essentially, the neighbors were trying to share because their power had gone out, and there were 4 trees blocking their way out, so they couldn't drive out to go anywhere. So they were basically hunkering down in this U-shaped thing. I saw another clip, and I guess the people that before this storm specifically that really were in a bad spot, a lot of the people that were anywhere near lakes or anywhere near ponds. There was another woman who was on the news that was live reporting from, I think she just came out of the emergency operations center, and then she saw there was a pond where all of this stuff was going down, and it did point out something really good. The ambulance came to actually pick up a woman, and when it came to pick up the woman, the ambulance couldn't actually get in to get to that house. So they actually had to carry part of the way the stretcher, then wheel it alongside this area of dryness, and then take it all the way around all of the water to get this woman back into the ambulance. And heck, if I was living in an area like that is in the way, I don't know. Gosh, I wonder if people are faking like, oh yeah, my back, I need to go to the hospital, just so they can go and guarantee, they're going to be taken to somewhere that's probably safe or has a bunker. It's like, what do you do when you don't have the supplies? And that's so messed up. There was a comment by the current VP basically saying, yeah, nobody really prepares for this. They just don't have their stuff together, and that's really sad. They didn't save up for an event like this. How are we supposed to save? And I'm sorry, I disagree with it, because how are we supposed to save when the majority of honestly, the spending every month, at least for us, is food? The food is absolutely absurd. And then for somebody like myself and a lot of you guys that follow our show, we have covered all of these events around the country. I mean, just incredible, crazy events, all these unrelated, super coincidental, events where it takes down plants that make the food, or plants that produce this, or plants that produce that. I mean, it was one after another. And it was so many different things that were all unrelated that it's kind of hard to say they're unrelated. And it's kind of hard to say, like, is another country sabotaging things for us? Is somebody going in? Is this some sort of operation by 3-letter agencies or 4-letter agencies or somewhere else? It's like, it's that bad. I know that there's many people here that believe, yes, absolutely it is. And there's not a lot that we can prove, but one thing we do know is we can prove how hard it is to live right now. We can prove that things like this are mishandled. We can absolutely prove that it's not getting better. How does it get better? I don't think any of us have the real answers for this. Now, are any of you watching from Florida right now? We have tons of Florida viewers, and I know that not all of you are out of power and out of internet, but are some of you there, and do you have any stories yourselves from this event? Feel free to pop into the chat. Butterfly31, nice to see you. Thank you guys. I'm going to pop over to this, and Alicia DMD, Frank Walls, Tarahu. Thank you. Dex, how many do we have in chat right now? Does it show? I can't really look at that.
I believe it's around a couple thousand.
Well, thank you guys for making it to this special show here. Let's pop open. Here was another Milton updated about 7:45. Let's go over to this one. So I think, yeah, this one is
Picking up.
Oh, no. No, gotta mute that. Hold on. There we go. I know why they do it, too. Okay. Dex, can you try speaking? I had to mute that real quick. I gotta readjust your volume again.
I'm good. I was just thinking that mute that.
Yeah. I just hate that. And you can't hear the actual stupid video. Why do people do that? All right. And then here are some photos. Lake Placid, Florida. Tornado damage. At least one person injured. So this is just horrendous. And this is not even the storm hitting. These were the tornadoes. So let's go over to Twitter. Here, let's zoom out. And we're going to look up some live updates while we're all here with you. Let's see. All right, so let's go over here. So see, oh my gosh, these are just insane. So, tornado outbreak. This was about 6 hours ago. I mean, just look at the craziness that they're dealing with. Look at this image. And there were more than a dozen. I mean, that is absolutely insane. Let's see here. And I'll make sure. Let's see here. Yeah, let me pop this open here real quick. Make sure I don't. Yeah, let's go check on the live Jimmy's Crow's Nest here. Let's refresh this.
You know, it's amazing how many of these cameras are now down. We spent a lot of time trying to collect as many webcams as we could before we got on, and the more you start checking them, the more they've gone out. Not just because it's dark, because power's out, and that's another map we can pull up too. We have the power outages map.
You know what? This one is not refreshing. It might actually be out. Nope. There we go. So there's 3 others that I already saw that are out. We have a whole list of them here. So let me pull it up on a different one here. Let's see. Naples Pier camera. It's out. That one is out.
Yeah, Sanibel Island's out too. That they had
Wow.
a lot of cams, and it looks like a lot of them are down. I'm trying to pull them up.
Yep. So let me pull this just to show you. Yeah, this is out. City of Sanibel. It does not appear to, and it looked like it went black about 14 minutes ago. So another thing, I'm praying for the people that are in the way of this. I saw some folks that don't really I'm not an expert on hurricanes, but one thing I do know is that you can't judge it by the number. And as far as the disasters that happen in North Carolina, a lot of those happen from flooding, mudslides, from rain, not from 200-mile-an-hour winds. Dex,
Adam,
go ahead.
Grab the University of Tampa, the riverfront. That one's still up, and man, is that intense. Take a look at that.
Wow.
Leave it to the university to spend good money to mount a camera and keep the power on. They got the geeks there, I'm sure.
And look at this. So I think we can go back in time to before it really started hitting. If I don't even think I have to touch it. I think you're going to see it in front of your eyes all of a sudden get bad. So you see right here, you start to see these waves of water hitting the cameras. Wow, that is incredible. And I want to thank Dylan for your support. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then Dex, I can't see any of the other supers. If you see one, please feel free to read it out. I can't access it right now. But watch this. You're going to see this turn. Let's fast forward 3 minutes here.
And then we have low T and vintage in Jacksonville. Currently breezy with light rain. Gas stations were out of gas on Monday night when I went to fill up. Alex Gallegos, 80 fires burning thousands of acres in Wisconsin. Vic the Villain, Marf, puts on tinfoil hat. Are these events being amplified by future tech? You know what kind of stuff that you of Alaska in Fairbanks. And then Lavera Lucchini, always, Marf, since 2017. I am free to disagree always, even without you banning me. You have always been respectful. Please stay that way. Thank you very much, Lavera. And then Tammy Carver, Tampa Bay sucked dry. Wow. That's crazy.
Well, and then as far as future tech, I'll do what Mamala would do. And I would say, no, I don't think that there's any future tech used. No, I do not. All right. And then watch this fast forward. So, boom, it just starts hitting. Then you can barely see. I mean, it's pretty drastic. And then all of a sudden, you can't see almost anything. You almost couldn't see the tree there for a second. And then let's refresh this. You'll see it live. I mean, look at how fast that's going. Before, you could see raindrops in front of this thing, in front of the light. Before, I mean, look at that. Look at the transition from that to that. So that is no fun for anybody that is there. All right, and then let's see. And let's go to latest. Let's see. We've got a clip here of C-SPAN. It says that Kamala was briefed on Hurricane Milton when she was overheard telling her it's live as they provided her with answers to questions. Oh my God. I have to see this. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see. Let me make sure. Gosh dang it. Don't want any.
I think we're up to 1.2 million, by the way, now out of power.
I forgot to say that earlier. So, by the way, if you guys noticed, and you can rewind to when I first showed this map, I refreshed it. I just loaded this right before we went live. It was at 600,000, and then I refreshed, and it was up. So it's 1.212 right now, and I don't know if it updates every minute or how often, but it says 1.2 million. 12,644, 1.349 thousand. This has been about what would you guys say, about 10 minutes since I had this map up. So I have a guess by the end of the show it might be at about 2 million people without power or more. It is really getting bad, and this is as landfall is hitting. I mean, we're covering this live, so things are going to change throughout the show. Again, if you just joined us, we're going over some of the craziness. I am going to refresh the next rad here, and I just want to make sure that I don't. Let's see. Let's make sure here. Yeah. So this is the next rad.
And while you're pulling that up, Adam, Trilicit said, can Adam or Dex check on Heartbroken Survivor? I know she's in the direct line of the hurricane. I haven't seen her for a while, or on here. Is she okay? I may be wrong, but I thought she was in Pensacola, which would be the Panhandle. I could be wrong, though. I cannot remember. I'll check.
Yeah, I sure hope not. And I don't know about Nextrad, but what is this thing? What is... Dex, do you see the Nextrad right here, up a couple states? What is that just like straight up line coming out of, what is that? That's not North Carolina. Is that North Carolina? That's not North Carolina.
Well, we're not supposed to ask those kind of questions when the radars look weird like that and shoot lines off in areas. But yeah, it's obviously picking up something. It could be picking up, a strange thing in the sky, or it could just be a wave from the radar system that's shooting out, or it could be all sorts of stuff. I don't want to be the one. There's plenty of people that have a lot of speculation on these and look at them, and these lines that shoot out and get picked up all the time in here.
I know, but what do they say? What do they say they are? They say they're Dopplers or something, or that one's just like straight, like a beam, right? What state is that? Is that above North Carolina? Is this?
Yeah, that's coming right out of Virginia, probably.
That's
that's like Norfolk, Virginia. Right there is going to be the naval base in that area. So it could be some interesting activity happening in there that's causing it to pick up.
Huh. Well, actually, it makes me wonder. So CENTCOM moved, right? Remember you said that they had a backup plan for CENTCOM?
Yep.
CENTCOM was in the direct line of fire of this by the Tampa, where it was supposed to go. CENTCOM, which is now Overwatch, overlooking the entire Middle East operation right now. CENTCOM was moved, and they said that they have evacuated and they set up shop, and that they had plenty of time to do that. I wonder if if they're up in Norfolk helping what if that beam is some sort of communication with what's going on in the Middle East, some other system that they're using or something. I don't know. It's very interesting stuff. And then as we go back over to this, I bet you if we just update this one, yeah, I can't believe it just went up almost 100,000 in just about 10 minutes or something. Yeah, it was at 1.2. It's at 1.3.5. Almost 150,000 it just went up by. And let's briefly, there was another update. I wonder, did I load that? Let me see if I did. Remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com. You can find all sorts of great things. You can also find our list of friends. Up at the very top, you'll see a tab that says Friends. You can click there to find all of our awesome mods. Make sure to thank the mods right now and drop an M into the chat. You can also find a whole list of other shows that we have done. We do a nightly show 5 nights a week. You can find those here. And then we also have 2 channels, so make sure to subscribe to the news channel. At the very top, you'll see all of the news videos. Then you scroll over, you'll see all of the TV videos. News and TV are 2 main channels, and then, of course, Jams is just a silly channel that we do to shout out all of our awesome people in the audience, our Foogle family. Now, before we move on, remember we are independent. Everything here today is essentially, everything we're doing is we're all on our own. So if you guys do want to support us and get yourself protected, if you follow our show, you'll know exactly why we recommend EMP Shield and products like this. But again, EMP Shield is a device that can actually not only protect you against an EMP, but it can also protect you against a solar event. In fact, a Carrington level event from the sun. This would actually keep your car running so you'd be able to get home to your family or get out to bug out. Obviously, everybody is focused on the hurricane and all of the disasters that are going on in the East Coast. But an EMP strike, if we did have the right adversary do it with the right equipment, it would be something that we would all be affected by. So if you don't want to be stuck, if you want to be able to leave when you want to leave, then go put an EMP shield in your car. It's not much for being able to have the peace of mind knowing that you can travel after multiple EMP strikes as they are coming. It will ground the signal before it can fry it. In less than 500 trillionths of a second. It's very easy to put in. You don't need a mechanic. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground. That's at marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF, and you'll get that $50 off discount and help our channel at the same time. All right.
Hey, you know what's fitting with that too, Adam? We rarely mention, because we always talk about the war aspects or the solar aspects about this, but just looking at that radar image we looked, or the space image of Florida, and watching all of that lightning strike Florida. Florida's the lightning capital of the world, or of at least the U.S. for many. And they even have warning sirens in Florida because the lightning can be so bad and so destructive. That's the other thing this device can actually protect your home from, is a lightning strike. So if you have the home model and it's wired into your house, it even guarantees it can withstand a direct hit to your house, not just, it hit the power lines, down the block somewhere and you get a surge. And they put their money where their mouth is, $25,000 policy on it. So pretty impressive.
And along with EMP Shield, we don't just switch these things out. You'll see a lot of YouTubers and creators, and I'm not hating on anybody, but a lot of them are most likely with the network. If they have a rotation of just 50,000 different things, like today it's a flashlight, tomorrow it's like a shaver or something, and I'm not talking about specific brands, because some of those are like independent brands, but if you see that like almost never the same ad, that's usually a multi-channel network that is basically doing their ads for them. I have never let anybody pick any of the stuff that we have advertised for. We have had EMP Shield for now 4 years. Energy, which is now on pause. They're catching up orders and stuff. Energy, the solar generation, we have had for years. The freeze dryers we've had for quite a while now. And then, of course, Jace is probably our newest. They're all things that we believe will actually save your life or make your life better. If they were still around, I would still represent the grounding stuff. Like that grounding stuff, actually, I really, really, really love my stuff that I got from them. And you can't even get it anymore. They don't. You can't even buy the stuff that came from that company, I don't think. That grounding company, do they even sell stuff anymore?
They're still around. I just think their whole affiliate system that they were doing at the time sort of went to the wayside, and I don't know whatever happened with it after that. Yeah,
because we talked to the owner and sort of the guy
Clint.
that Clint, and that was such an awesome interview and stuff. But yeah, you can't even you can't get them through us anymore. We would still represent that because that was such a cool thing. But yeah. You guys, a lot of people, and especially new people, you'll just see them as an ad. We see these as, if all of our audience had this, think about how much in a better spot we would be in. That means you're not going to be affected by an EMP strike. It is one of the biggest threats. We've shown you all of the white papers and the DHS resilience reports and all of that. I think it is one of the plans that is going to happen. I think that that's part of a bigger plan. And yeah, probably have to put a hat on to see it exactly how I see it. But really, the tinfoil hats have been coming out lately, and guess what? Not so much of that was so crazy after all. All right, and then...
and Vic said he's here in Tampa with the family. We haven't lost power somehow. The kiddies are doing fine. Much love. Christ is King. Amen, Vic.
Hey, nice to hear that, and that's really, really great news. Hopefully it ends up reducing down, but even further. But you have to look at kind of the aftermath. I mean, look at some of this. This is incredible. And this, I believe, yeah, this is like before it even hit. Look at that. So we're not
They were suggesting, I thought I read somewhere, they had pre-estimated it could be up to 170 billion in damages from this. It could be the biggest, not biggest hurricane, but the biggest rebuild expense. Now, we won't know until it's over, but that's some of the predictions they were making just based on where it was hitting, the property, the types of damage that can come from this. And, all of that, it adds up. I mean, it adds up even to the economy. It's not like anybody's going to pay that bill. It's not like that's. And by the way, Florida is one of those places that's really been difficult on the insurance. If you try to buy a house there, it's kind of hard to get insurance, kind of like California. And there's certain places where they're not writing the insurance anymore. They're having all sorts of issues because of hurricanes. And, people know down there. I've got family and friends who lost one policy because they just got dropped, and they went out to try to get another one, and it's almost impossible to find one. And they were even uncovered for a period of time, and they were just completely paranoid about what would happen to their house should a hurricane happen at that moment.
There's some pretty insane numbers coming out of this right now. So this is 42 minutes ago. This is insane. St. Petersburg has reported 5.09 inches of rain in 1 hour, and 9 inches in 3 hours. That's more than a 1,000-year rain event. Thresholds for a 1,000-year rain event there is 5.56 in an hour, 7.16 in 2 hours, or 8.50 in 3 hours. So this is breaking. Looks like all records here.
And look, that kind of rainfall is a big deal. I mean,
That's
Florida's
huge.
got a lot of low land. It's not like there's hills and everybody's up on the hills. It's low. So when it floods, it floods. I mean, we had our 500-year flood even here in Georgia, and we're all hilly. That was extremely difficult. It was very bad. We had bridges and roads out for weeks and months. I can't remember how many different routes we had to take to try to get around town because it'd take forever to fix stuff. I mean, our interstate was completely flooded over by a river at the time. So that kind of fast flash of water, that's a lot of water in a short amount of time. That can cause tremendous amount of damage.
And so right now, it looks like the newest breaking news is that there's a flash flood in Tampa, who was that just commented? I don't know. I know Tampa's a big city.
Vic said they were fine, and I thought someone else said, Tammy said Tampa Bay was sucked dry, which, by the way, that kind of happens. The bay, all the water, if you look at the hurricane hitting south, the winds are blowing south, and the winds are then blowing out on the north of the hurricane. And if Tampa Bay is north of the eye wall, as those winds are blowing out, it's basically reversing a storm surge by sucking the water out of the bay.
Can you see I wonder if we could find pictures of that? That must be a shocking sight. So if
I think there are some in the past during daylight. I don't know if we'll have any from the nighttime, but I can look.
If you've ever seen just in general, to show people what they're talking about, when that rain is coming from water that comes up, but when you get these big storms, it takes all of the water up and then it puts it somewhere else. I mean, it's kind of like you took a giant shop vac, vacuumed up a pool, and then put it on somebody's else's property. I mean, it's really insane. But think about it on a city level, or incredible level. A flash flood emergency, which is the highest level of flood warning, has been issued for Tampa. Between 10 and 14 inches have fallen. Flash flooding is already occurring. This is where it gets dangerous. This is like last week. That really affected me, seeing that photo of the two grandparents, and I still don't know the full story on that. The two grandparents with the granddaughter. Little girl looks like my second daughter's age. And she was wrapped up in a blanket on a roof with the water all the way up to the gutter on a 2-story house. And they said that was the last they were seen. And that just got me. And you just see this look on their face, like they're just looking out at nothing and just all water and rooftops. And then also knowing that same day, like within an hour of that, it was like that comment came out like, well, FEMA has their budget, and we purposely do our budgets like this so they know what they're going to deal with, and they have to work that out. The $750, which apparently a loan that if you don't pay back, you might lose your stuff. The fact
so
that
they did just to clarify that, Adam, they did say it's not a loan. I think there's confusion in the fact that you have to start a loan process with them to get your $750, but they did say it was the first tranche of assistance that gets paid out, and it's not a loan.
That's so
At least that's
stupid.
what they're trying to clarify. I don't know if that's the part about you have to do the paperwork for a loan with them to get it. I don't know if that's true or not. That may be where the confusion lies. Don't take that one to the bank, but at least from the C letter network news that has been controlled by those 3-letter agencies, they're the ones reporting that and saying no. According to the government agency, it's not a loan. By the way, I got a couple tweets that I highlighted.
Anything that criticizes the
doc,
current admin, they are going to somehow say it's not. It's the opposite of what it is. That's what I've noticed. And they will literally, and they'll coordinate with whatever agency needs to do. Like, watch, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what if before, guess what else got hacked today? The Wayback Machine. What if you went back in time and it said something different on that website? I mean, like literally, they could literally change it and go, no, it's not that. No, it's not a loan. Or you guys are crazy. And then people go, well, wait, I went to the Wayback Machine and it said it wasn't. It was a loan. I'm just saying. Did you guys know that the Wayback Machine got hacked? Dex, did I load that tweet? I sent it to you.
Yeah, it's in the list, and I got a couple highlighted.
Okay,
don't grab those, but you'll see the way back below there.
Okay,
but there's 2 highlighted. Grab for later.
Okay, I'm gonna pull these up, including the Wayback Machine, which is an archive of almost I don't know what the breadth of it is, but it has. You can go back and see an exact website. Say you go back to wa.gov or something, and then you go back 3 years ago, you could see overnight the night where they changed what it said. A lot of the times they've caught some weird stuff when the gov tweaks little things and changes the wording. Same with companies, like if they say, oh, you get a free car with this if you put your hand on a plane for 24 hours or something, and overnight they changed it to, oh, but there's small print or something. The Wayback Machine was hacked, and I think that's just telling. Like, are they deleting the history? Or is it when it comes back on, is it going to be missing huge chunks of the archive? Like, what did they do? Dex, which part were we looking at here? Which part of the under hurricane, tornado, radars, wind map?
Okay, so down below at the bottom of that list, there's one that says Wayback, if you want to pull that up. And then I've got 2 that I have highlighted for you that I want to talk about when you get a second. Okay,
perfect. So yeah, this is what I saw earlier, right before the show. The timing of the Wayback Machine hack is very... Oh, this is different. Is this the one I sent you? So it did have the same thing. It says, have you ever felt like the Internet Archive runs on sticks and is constantly on the verge of suffering a catastrophic security breach? It just happened. See 31 million of you on HIBP. Dex, what is HIBP, by the way? I didn't know what the hell that meant. HIBP.
It's have I been pawned. It's where you check your email to see if you've been on the dark web. Like if they've got your email address, you go type it in, I'll let you know.
What the hell? And yeah, the timing. It's incredible. Just saying. Yeah, I'm reposting that. That's just too much. Okay, and I swear the actual tweet said something different. I said the timing was weird, and then looks like they thought that too. Okay, and then what is this? you've got it highlighted here. Let me see. Let me put it over on here.
Yeah, the first one is an image from, or a video from, alleged video from Tampa Bay being sucked dry. And the second one's Lieutenant Dan. I'll talk about that too.
Okay, let's see. And that's Wyoming? Or wait. I'm trying to find here where we're at. Can you put... Yep, there we go. Okay, which one first, top or bottom?
Do the first one, top one first.
Okay.
That's Tampa Bay.
So check.
So this has happened before. This is the video allegedly at this point in time, but it doesn't matter. This has happened before. It's not like a phenomenon. It is pretty interesting the way it works. Exactly what we were describing, the way the wind blows the water out of the bay. So where these people are standing, this is normally water up to the shoreline, up to the wall there, the seawall for the bay. And now there's nothing. You could literally walk out there. Of course, you shouldn't. That'd be very dangerous because it's going to come back really quick.
Yeah, and let me see if I can find the thing I was just on. This is Ryan Hall, y'all. Says flash flooding emergency continues for Tampa, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, and Clearwater. This is a life-threatening situation. Seek higher ground. So that is a map there. Wow, that is incredible. And one of our viewers is in this area. So, gosh. Can you comment again if you're still there? I mean, is it just pouring down right outside you, or is it really coming down? What is it like outside your house? It sounds like you guys are good for now. Hopefully you don't lose power. But then let's see. Let's go back to, and then the second tweet. Do you want to introduce this, Dex?
Okay, so this was Lieutenant Dan. And for those of you who don't know, there's a gentleman who's been given the nickname Lieutenant Dan. He lives in a boat in Tampa Bay. That's his boat. It was taken recently before it got dark. He was actually going to ride the storm out. Jim Cantor even went down and interviewed him and tried to convince him to leave. The reason they call him Lieutenant Dan is he's an amputee. He's only got one leg. He hasn't been a boat captain for very long, about 5 years now, but he had said, hey, I rode out Helene and I had to figure it out, and I was going to ride this one out. I'm not leaving, even though the police begged him to get out. Now, it did turn out, at least it's being reported, they finally convinced him to leave and go to a shelter, but they're suggesting or saying that this is his boat and it doesn't look like it's doing too well. It's sort of making its way down, and it's gotten moved around. But yeah, you can imagine the struggles of trying to manage your sailboat. It doesn't have a motor. It did have a motor. It just doesn't work. So it's not derelict, but he can sail it, if he needed to, but that's not practical in a storm like this. So, he was moored up, Lieutenant Dan, for a while there. And I guess he finally gave in, but a lot of people were pulling for him. Somebody even set up a huge, GFM for him as well. So he's semi-famous down in the Tampa area. But allegedly, they got him into a shelter. They convinced him to leave.
Well, and we've all seen that too, where the old timers, they don't want to leave. They say, hey, no, I'm going to sit here and watch my stuff. Especially you see it with fires. I have some firefighter buddies, and I briefly did volunteer firefighting and never saw any kind of action. But I hung out with a bunch of volunteer firefighters, and it was like there was always these cases where people would want to protect their stuff, or they would want to stay. They would want to spray or spray water around their property or something like that. And from the friends I've talked to, they said it almost always ends in tragedy, where if they're asking you to evacuate for fire specifically. Usually, we're not talking about in any different islands or anything. Usually, they mean well. They know how the fire patterns work. They know the wind patterns. They know that it's going to come and it's going to be at your property. It is not smart to stay. But they say they run into that all the time, and that the obituaries are full of these kind of scenarios with him, if he was there and if it was, say, if it went super wrong, that boat would have been thrashed around until it crashed and opened, and then he would be sitting in water. I mean, where would he go from there in a scenario like that?
Yeah, well, it puts other people at risk, because then other people might want to try to save him, and that does happen. But in this scenario, of course, they actually say, at least from a services point of view, services aren't going to save you. They're not going to be going out trying to save anybody in a situation like this. Now, in Helene, which was also a sort of a direct hit in there, he said he had to just point his nose into the wind and shift his boat a couple of times and ride it out. And he even said he took a nap and tried to sleep through it, but he made it through. But he, as an amputee, it's also difficult. It wasn't something he could just, like, he had said he wanted to move his boat from one side of the pier to the other because it would be more protected. And he couldn't actually just get out and walk his boat around, even though it's sort of small. He doesn't have the ability, but he praised a bunch of locals that came down and helped him move his boat over into that area. But again, they did say he left. I don't know. Hope he did. But I know a lot of people, there's always those people that don't sort of heed it. And he said, look, God sent him there. God told him to go get a boat 5 years ago. So he went and got a boat, and he's been living on the boat ever since. And he said, if God told him to do it, he was going to be just fine. But it also reminds me of that age old story that it kind of goes hand in hand with floods and hurricanes. And when, the preacher, the water's coming up to the doorstep, and the guy comes by in a canoe and says, jump in the boat, preacher. And he goes, no, God will save me. And the water gets up higher, and he's hanging out the window, and another boat comes by, and he says, no, God will save me. I'm not leaving my church. And now he's on the top of the church, and the helicopter comes by, and he's like, no, God will save me. I don't need you. Leave me here with my church. And then he unfortunately perishes, goes to before Peter at the pearly gates, talks to God and says, why didn't you save me? And he goes, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What more did you want? So,
and that, by the way, where does that come from? I know that they use that in Leave the World Behind.
I've heard it a few times as a kid, and I paraphrase it every time, but it's a good little story. I've always told it to my children.
It's just weird that they use that in Leave the World Behind. I mean, isn't that kind of a weird thing?
Yeah, I remember hearing that in the movie.
And with how much symbolism is in that movie, it's like, is that one of the things? Like, hey, we're giving you a warning here. We're telling you. Mind you, in that movie, one of the weird things, like, there's so many things in that movie that it's not like, oh, it's a theory. They purposely change things in the background that you do not do for continuity. The background of the bed in Leave the World Behind, there's a, what do you call it? The headboard. In this rental property in Leave the World Behind, there's water that's down below the headboard. It's a background mural of a seascape, and the water's down here. Later on, in a scene in 15, 20 minutes, it's up here. And then by the end of the movie, it's almost at the ceiling. There's a painting in the living room that shows a black and white kind of abstract painting, and it changes 3 times. And one of them almost looks like seismic things, like there's an earthquake. The thing is basically saying the flood. Like, are they hinting like the great flood is coming? Something like that. What would they know? What would you know at presidential level? Remember, Barack and his wife made that film and consulted on it and tweaked it. It is not exact to the book. That is for sure. Now, after reading the book, I realized the differences. And they made specific changes, almost like they wanted... The changes that they made almost makes you... In fact, I was going to say, we did a full video kind of breakdown thing on that, or there was things I even missed on that. But it would be almost interesting to touch back on that with the differences in the book to the movie, because there's other signs in that. If you've read the book and know, there's even more stuff that was like specific changes. Either way. And then...
and hey, Adam, going back to the Tampa Bay and the wind, take a look at this wind map. I've got it highlighted in there. It should load up right to where the eye is. If it doesn't, we may have to zoom in, but it should preload.
Okay, so... Wow.
So this is a representation of the winds on Earth at the time, and you can see where that circulation that happens, and that kind of gives you the idea. If you think right above that blue is Tampa Bay, you can see that inlet of water there, and you can just see how the wind is pushing that water out, straight out to sea, or straight out to the Gulf, so to speak, and that's why it's dry.
So. And you're talking about this area above, right? Not the blue, not the eye of the storm.
Just above the eye of the storm, right at about 10, 11 o'clock, that is Tampa Bay. That inlet that you can kind of see outlined in there where the water would normally go in the map.
Wow.
That's Tampa Bay. So that wind is coming from the land to the Gulf, and it's just pushing all that water out of the bay.
So how long does that last? Does it can it stay like that if that water gets lifted up and put somewhere else? Or
you just imagine this eye as it moves across from left to right. The winds will start moving. Instead of moving towards the Gulf, they'll be moving up and down the coast. And when that happens, water can come back in because it's not shearing it out. It's sort of shearing it down. And then as the eye moves further inland, then it'll probably come right back.
Quick update.
Well, it will.
1.6 million out of power. We just updated it just a few minutes ago. It was at 1.349, so 1.3 million. Now it is at 1.6 million power without power. So for you that is in Tampa, I really hope you guys keep your power, because if you look at the map too, it looks like it's moving up. Make sure to have your stuff charged. If you have a solar generator that's already pre-charged and up ready to go, hopefully you guys got those ready. Also, a lot of those solar generators you can plug into the wall and charge while you have power. Then when the power goes out, you have some power to live off of. If you have your gas-powered generators, obviously I know that over the last 4 days, there has one of the biggest problems is a lot of the gas stations ran out. What was that, Monday? You said many of the gas stations ran out of gas. Fugel family members said that they could not get gas. One Fugel family member emailed me yesterday morning and said that they waited for 13 hours outside of a gas station because they kept saying that they were going to get more, that there was a truck on the way. As of that, truck never came. So this is update from like 6 hours ago or something, and this was over 40 hours ago. So they were thinking that they would wait there until they basically then told them, we're not getting more gas. We're just not, and we're shutting down, and we apologize. So a lot of people only stayed that long because they were told that there was a truck on the way, that there was more fuel coming. So my question to many of you is, have any of you, anybody else there, been in that same situation? And second, is that happening on a broad level? Like, is there many gas stations that never got their truck? Did they make a snap decision that it was too dangerous to come down? Or, what ended up happening there? So we'll update this in a little bit, and we'll see what happens there. Go ahead.
And Adam, Tammy Carver, thank you very much. And Lavera Lucchini again. Marf, I'm sending love to you and all. I've been here since 2017. Please, if you can, do the Lucchini on Island Santorini in a bikini drinking martini. Question mark. Funny. And then Vic, if I remember, he said something earlier about Tampa. Yeah, he says, wind is probably the worst I've seen in 30 years in Florida. Howling like a demon. First time I've fled home, glad I did.
Well, I'm happy, and I'm super happy you're okay, and that you did end up making that choice. I'm sure there's probably people that left that even probably regret leaving, right? Seeing what's going on. But I think everybody made the sound choice and left. You might be going through hell right now wherever you have to camp or park in a parking lot or wherever it may be. But man, and I just can't believe that some people had to deal with stuff like this. Over a dozen tornadoes. Is there a updated number on how many? I heard 16 16 tornadoes popped up. I mean, that's just something out of a movie where on the outside of Milton, before it's even made landfall, which, by the way, is, news earlier, did not have, all these meteorologists, there were 6 of them around a panel on one of these MSMs. 6 of them were talking about why something on the top of it is normally like this and the bottom of this is like this, and how dry it was and how this and that. And they were trying to explain why this was totally different than any other storm. And they weren't, and of course you've heard unprecedented many times, but they were saying that there was something that always happens that didn't happen with this. And they didn't have an explanation of why it was happening. But they basically said, yeah, normally it does this, this, and that. And you can always look for that. And it's always this, this, and that. Dried here, this, that. And I don't know, I'm not a meteorologist, but I could tell that they were all going, this doesn't happen, ever. So, are we going to find out that there are things that are just so suspicious that, beg the question, like, why? What the hell happened? And I'm sure they're going to say it was the change. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not like we aren't all questioning it, and even politicians have been questioning it. And we've been reporting about countries using different devices and different techniques to increase their rainfall and things like that. So there's something at play here, and there's even written agreements between countries that they won't do this. So that means they know they can do it. Hey, Tammy just said, this is really important, Adam. The back wall and the surge are coming in now over 16 feet now in St. Petersburg. So if you go back to that wind map, this is really important. I can see it here on the map. As that eye wall has moved on shore, the back of the eye wall is what's coming in. The whip of the wind that goes around that circle, okay, it's the strongest on the backside as it comes back in. And that's where you're going to get that massive surge. The greatest surge is going to be right on that back wall, shoving the water inland. It kind of looks like out in the Gulf it's going down, but as you get close to the center of the eye wall, those circles are coming back inland really quick, and it's just blasting and hammering that water inland. And so, as she just said from her report, Tammy Carver, over 16 feet now in St. Petersburg, which is right below Tampa.
Wow, this changed over just the last 5 minutes there. And so that red, is that a higher pressure, or is that a faster wind, or what does the red coincide with?
I don't know what the red means on this map. I might have to look into it. But typically when you're looking at, say, the storm portion of this map or radar map, that area is very stormy. And it's the backside of the hurricane. It's the most strength of the wall. And at least as they were describing this one coming in, they said the north and the northwest side of the eye wall was the strongest.
I mean, it's changing momentarily. This is much different right here. This is all changed. Up here, it's all changed. I wonder what it's like being out on the open sea, if there's anybody, big ships out there that are dealing with all of this. We do have a tweet on that one. They actually sent a drone out. I wonder which one of those. It's one of the ones we had. I'll see if I can find it and highlight it for you. All right, that's perfect. Let's see here. And then, gosh, and you can even see more of that. Look at that. This is now updated. Wow, that's incredible. Okay, let's see. And we're going to go. Okay, I got it if you want it. It's right here. And by the way, this is the flash flood emergency. Here's St. Petersburg. Is that where she said she was, Tammy? Tammy is in St. Petersburg? Right, I don't know if she said that's where she was, but she did say St. Pete was 16 feet. Wow. And you can see what part of Florida this is in. This is actually where I believe this is a little bit below where kind of a lot of these maps and all the predictions said. I thought the predictions all kind of said right here, this is this area that's got this flash flood. Yeah, no, that is exactly where they predicted. Here's Tampa.
It's Tampa exactly where they want. That's the bay. That's the empty bay right there.
Wow, right here. This whole thing, this U-shaped.
Or was.
Oh my gosh. And then this is empty. Is that because it was in the eye of the storm, or?
Well, as the eye came in, the top of the eye was pushing that water out. It was pushing it to the left, to the west. And now as the eye has moved in, it starts coming down and around. And that storm surge, actually as the bay goes out, there's probably a little bit of a reverse surge against St. Pete, up against that land there. But technically it'll all go out to the Gulf. But then as that eye comes in and that whip comes back around, then that surge comes and follows it in. And it comes back in with a vengeance, because everything that went out needs some place to go, and it's got to come right back in.
And the area that is involved here, a population, 2 million people are in the path of this thing. You've got 392 schools and 32 hospitals. So you've got a lot of folks that are affected just by this flash flood warning here. And that goes until 2:30 a.m., it looks like. And then, yeah. So this is just absolutely horrendous. 16 inches in the last 24 hours. Let's...
And you got to remember, with that storm surge, you also have waves on top of it. So, like, whatever waves are happening above. So even if you have a surge of 15 feet, but you have 3 or 4 foot swells above that, you can have these big swells that are even higher.
Wow, this is really, really, really shaping
And that video
up.
I highlighted for you, Adam, I think it was a national hurricane group, one of the scientific groups. They sent out a drone, sailboat drone or some sort of device, out into the ocean so they could, I guess, measure and see things, but at the same time they filmed it so you can actually see what it's like to be on the rough waters in the middle of this hurricane, or at least in the front at the time. I imagine it was off the coast during daylight before it came on shore, but even that looked pretty intense.
Now it sounds like the governor DeSantis is saying he's going to take control of this. He's making comments, and I just scrolled through the captions here. And it basically says that he's saying, we're going to be the sheriff on this. We're going to take full control of the response on this. Florida, we run the show. F and the E and the MA is not running the show. You're not going to see them running amok. In Florida, I'm the sheriff that's in charge here. So, yeah. Whereas North Carolina, the big thing that is going on right here, and it's constant. You have sheriffs risking their careers, stating out loud, and again, the sheriffs are voted for. And you know what's so crazy? This goes back to why, Dex, do you remember when they were trying to change things for sheriffs? They were trying to put something in, and I believe it would be a federal change. Do you remember what the reason for this was? It was something where you would no longer be able to, that sheriffs would be able to be removed by, if they, basically it worked out to, if they said the wrong thing, if they used their speech in the wrong way, or if they did this, they would be able to, they would be able to take away a certification if they didn't have this constant certification, which the certification could be controlled by other parties. If they took away that certification, they could no longer be a sheriff. In some way, that basically means, like, if the big gov doesn't like the statements by a sheriff, they would be able to tell, say, so-and-so agency not to renew or to take away said, permit or said certification. And I'm paraphrasing because I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. But when we talked about this, we also talked about how Jordan Peterson has talked about this, where they didn't like what his political views were, what his views were. So what they ended up doing is they ended up taking his license away, or they ended up saying, hey, you're going to have to go through such and such and such and such media training and all this training. Otherwise, you can't do this. And it basically went to the establishment level or the institution level and went to where he got the degree from it. And then they put pressure on him and said, well, we're not, we can, if you don't do this, we're not going to do this. And he said, well, how long do I have to do this? And they said, until we say so. Then that puts the power of his license and his ability to operate in their power. So when you have sheriffs coming out in this, I guess now they're safe, but I don't think they will be in the future. And I think that that's why they're trying to push all of this. That sheriff is, at least risks getting canceled and probably, verbally attacked and possibly attacked for his statements about the current leadership of the country and his statements about the responses that are happening. They want to tell you that the response in North Carolina, oh, that's a bunch of people just making it up. You have millions of people talking about it. You have hundreds of thousands of videos at this point of now people actually talking about what is going on there, and it's not going well. It's not going well whatsoever. It's the worst response ever. So I'm sure there's some people that are glad about this. But we'll be completely successful. What's going to happen now?
Hey, Adam, quick correction. Tammy said she was referring to the rain, even though she mentioned a surge, but she said it's inches of rain. So not 16 feet surge, 16 inches of rainfall in St. Pete. That's massive, 16 inches.
Yeah, that's what the flash flood. That's going to you're going to see people perishing from this. With that kind of flood, you're going to see all sorts of things shift around. When water goes up and that high above, that I know. We have floods here. That's bad. That's very bad.
And you asked earlier how many tornadoes. The latest report I'm able to find says that it's at least, probably more than this, but at least 19 had touched down ahead of Milton's landfall.
That's just insane. Let's go over to the chat here and say hello. What is going on? We've got D. What is happening? Viv. We've got Susan. Lori. Nice to see you. Milton. Cat 3. Country Boy. Let's do it. Also, a lot of marsh in Florida. Part of Sovereign Citizens. Nickelwise. What's happening? Little Wolf. Terry Mills. 16 on top of already saturated ground. Yes, that's absolutely right. What is happening? Hey, Angelo says, yo, Marf. Hey. Eric is playing the harp, if you get the meaning. Katy Perry sang after that, Hurricane. Is there a song named Hurricane? I don't know. I don't know Katy Perry. One thing I do know is I met her. Well, I didn't meet her. I saw her downtown without all of the stuff going on, and I could not believe it. Back when she was normal, I almost didn't recognize her. She was so quaint and normal looking. But I guess that's when she was. I didn't know that Katy Perry was a Christian singer. That is her, right? She used to be a Christian singer. I didn't know, or gospel singer. Yeah. Well, she looks so normal. Now you see her, she's going on podcasts talking about S&Ds and blah blah blah, and having eye twitches and all sorts of weird Hollywood stuff. Doing all sorts of weird stuff in her shows and her videos. Doing demonic videos. It's just nuts. County Sheriff has authority over the Fed. Constitution. Katrina 2.0. Winged eternally. They're saying North Carolina is easily worse than Katrina. And then Skyson High. What is happening? Heard it's aimed at Sarasota instead of Tampa now. Sweet Rems. What's going on? Nice to see you again. Bobby, thank you for modding. Soldier Soul, Ilea, thank you for modding. I saw you were in here. Thank you, Darth V. Jimmy the Lip. Gosh, what a I think that show hit different for me just because of my family. What do you call it? Shameless. So it's so crazy that that's not absurd in so many ways. North Carolina is biblical. Yeah, Nunya Biz. Is this going to help them with their Pick the Pres Day? No, it isn't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Katie started as Katie Hudson when she was the gospel singer.
Yeah.
And then later became Katy Perry.
She was already Katy Perry when I saw her downtown Seattle, but at Nordstrom's. But she looked just super quaint. Looked like a normal, everyday girl.
And I'm getting reports that some of those tornadoes, or a tornado, hit a retirement mobile home village, and there are people that have potentially perished there, and there's a lot of search and rescue obviously going on at the moment for them.
Somebody said that the chat has more bad info than the MSM. Well, I would state to yourself, you're an adult. You have to always do your own research on everything, and yeah, I would think it would be common sense not to just assume and believe something you would see in an online chat. But everything that you see on our show, we make sure to verify and correct. So make sure you know that. Anything else is usually an opinion. And opinions, in my opinion, can't be bad information. It's just an opinion. All right, and then let's see here. Yeah, the Wayback Machine, that's just crazy. All right, let's go back to this, and they're calling it Drench Warfare. Why are they calling it Drench Warfare? Wow, what a world we live in. Let's see here. About 2 miles south of me is this, what Fort Myers Beach looks like right now as Hurricane Milton surge comes in. This area cannot catch a break after Ian 2 years ago and Helene 2 weeks ago. Oh, man. What a crazy clip that is. Look at this. So we have over on X. Let's pop this open real quick. Look at this. It's a little bit harder to see, but let's see. That's Florida DOT cam right there. Things just flying right by. That is insane.
There was over 120 tornado warnings that went out today. Doesn't mean 120 tornadoes, but 120 warnings.
They have sirens too, right? So, I mean, they must have been hearing the sirens all over the state, just nonstop. So, yeah, that's looks to be no fun. Oh, my gosh. Somebody says, is that a person or a cow flying? I guess you never know. The size of those tornadoes, that was pretty shocking to see. And there was at least 4. I verified at least 4 of the separate ones were as that big physically. Some of them were bigger. One of the Florida tornadoes was just gigantic, and only one. It was in a rural area where you only, as of the start of this show, there was only really one angle of it, and you couldn't see the sides of it. You could only see in it because the only video that was out at the time was really close, which is scary in itself. And let's see here. We've got that. Let's go up to the latest. Let's see here. And we may be taking a short few minute break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to gather up and we're going to find some of the newest stuff that is out there here in just a second. Before we do, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out Jace if you haven't already. If you want to get yourself backup antibiotics in a disaster like, of course, North Carolina or Florida or any kind of disaster, it is really good to have antibiotics. Not only that, it is really good to have a backup on your regular medications. You can do both over at marfooglenews.com/Jace. In fact, they have lots of really, really awesome add-ons that you can add on to the Jace case, like albuterol, iodine tablets if you're concerned about any kind of nuclear event, and also stuff that essentially CNN hated and Joe Rogan loved. You can get that kind of stuff over there as well. So go over to marfooglenews.com/Jace, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF. It could very well come in handy in a pinch, and having that as a kit that you can take with you, put in your go bag, it's pretty useful to say the least, especially when you don't have a hospital you can go to, or if there is no power, there is no pharmacies. So marfooglenews.com/Jace, and make sure to use the code MARF. We're going to be taking a short 5 to 8 minute break here. We're going to continue. We're going to stay on live. You're going to be seeing NexRad and possibly a rotation of something else there in a second here as well. So again, we'll be right back in just a few minutes. So if you want to hang out and chat, go ahead. We'll see you in a few.
From Marfoogle News, where are you? Only news I use. Marfoogle News. Looking outside of my window, seeing a crescendo. I'm not going out there where apocalypse roams. Looking outside of my window, seeing a crescendo. I'm not going out there where apocalypse roams. Looking outside of my window.
Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and we are back. Thank you, guys, for being patient. Thank you for that, all of you that hung out in the chat. All right, so we are back with a couple of other subjects, too, that we want to talk about. We're going to update on Milton, but we also wanted to update something that really hasn't been talked about much, and I'm seeing this across the board that many people do not know about this, and it is the Wyoming fires. Now, if you have not heard about this, I'm going to pull up a couple things here, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So there is, again, a fire in Wyoming. Some are saying up to 100,000 acres that are on fire, and they're calling it the Wyoming elk fire, and it is not being talked about. And the area, and as we were just talking about earlier in the show, like all of these crazy unrelated events that keep adding up, and it's just like one thing after the next. I believe this is why they're calling it the elk fire. Maybe there's a video of an elk running through the fire, which is absolutely insane. Let me see if I can get a shot here of this elk running through it. Oh my gosh, that was catch of a lifetime there, if that was true. I'll find the images of it. And then Dex, do we have you back? Are you back here?
Oh yes, I'm here.
All right. So with the Wyoming fire, this has been going on for days. So here's another image of what was from the sky happening in Wyoming as of days ago. I mean, this was yesterday they took this. Why is nothing being talked about on the news? And furthermore, the Middle East, there has to be some stuff going on, but almost virtually no one is saying anything is happening today. And it's just so crazy to me that the MSM can literally cover any big thing and other things just completely get put to the side. I mean, we've always known that they really choose what the big stories are, right? Well, at the same time, we have a Middle East conflict. You have Israel flags going up in Lebanon as we speak, and there's no real updates. Like that's kind of insane to me. There was a call, right? Dex, was there not a call between Netanyahu and who was the call between? Was that JB and Netanyahu?
It was JB and Netanyahu today.
So I guess, that's one of the few updates out of that. Let's update you on the power outages in Florida. So this was at 16:30, so about 30 minutes ago. It is now up to almost 1.8 million. So that's incredible. This has gone up. In the very beginning of the show, this was at 600,000. Then it went up to 1.2, then to 1.34, then 1.6. Now we're almost at 1.8 million without power in Florida. So I'm praying for all of you guys in Florida that it is not a situation very similar to North Carolina where they have issues even getting it back up. But hopefully this is not as bad. The worst part about the Florida storm right now, even if after all of the dust settles and say we are, have a miracle and it's not as bad as we think it is, there's still no budget for the damage it does do. They're saying that, there's been comments from Mallorca saying, the season's budget is basically already going to be gone. So what the hell are they going to do about all of this? North Carolina obviously hit so hard that, they're talking about all of these 750 payments. So this is pretty bad. Now,
just think with the aftermath of this and what, they already had a problem. I mentioned this earlier. They already had a problem with insurance in Florida. Is it going to turn even worse because of this? I mean, every time these massive hurricanes come through, and in this case we had two, because mind you, Helene did a big number on Florida up in the curve there, up in the pit, so to speak, or the armpit, or whatever you want to call it, of Florida, that area up there as it went into Georgia. So they got hit there, and it also had an effect down to Tampa as well because it was a pretty big storm. Now we have Milton doing the same thing, but going straight across. It's going to, flood out Orlando. I mean, the effects of this across that state is going to be significant, because if it goes from Tampa to Orlando, from a damage and a flood standpoint, that's a lot of money. When you think about the amount of potential damages from vehicles to homes, population centers are huge through there. Even big, like Orlando's so huge from a tourist standpoint. You think of all the theme parks and everything. I'm sure they will have hundreds of millions of dollars of damages potentially if this floods out in those areas or the winds affect them. I know I even heard what was it? Disney World. They have that monorail train. They literally put the monorails inside the buildings of the hotel. There's a hotel that they go through, and they shut the steel doors down on it. And they were strapping everything down in all the parks. So, there's a lot of money to be lost in this state. Yeah,
as this goes on, and we'll be updating you throughout the week and of what ends up going, how bad this truly ends up being. I thought this was pretty insane. One of my buddies, Goose, he ends up live streaming the storm, so you can actually see as he's doing it the storm get worse and worse, and I thought it was live, so I ended up clicking on it, and it turns out it went out, and he updated it and basically said that it stopped his laptop, I believe, or something happened. But yeah, look at him. Look at that. That is just crazy. And Goose is the kind of guy who does stream during a hurricane. So that's and I don't know exactly what part he is living in, but it seems to get pretty strong right before it cuts out. So Goose, good luck, and hopefully you are okay. We'll have to message him and make sure he's good. But yeah, so, and then we have the Wyoming fires. Has anybody found, is there some sort of other reason why the Wyoming fire, why is it not being talked about? That's what I don't really understand. What is this area important in? This specific area, what is big in this part of Wyoming? Does anybody have any theories already? Obviously now it's starting to get kind of the independent crowd looking at it. You have regular people doing videos and saying, hey, why is this not being talked about? Why was there no updates on this? That is a giant fire. And when it goes days and not been contained, why no coverage? Or is it just because they don't want any more negative attention on the current admin, the fact that this thing is happening? I mean, yeah, you've got TikTokers talking about it, but why isn't the mainstream talking about it? Go ahead.
I did find some official coverage of it, but it's not a lot of detail. It just says it was growing to over 75,000 acres, which I think now we've said it's over 100,000. As of Wednesday morning, they said that there were 829 firefighters and other personnel have been deployed to battle it, and it's only 16% contained. So that's a very small amount. They also said that the increased fire behavior was reported Wednesday because of high winds and low humidity, which those obviously are two things you do not want during times of fire. So if the mountain gusts, the winds intensified the fire activity and had spread the fire, and that's what they're dealing with right now. So, oh, and the official word is they say it started with a lightning strike. But
Yeah.
don't they always say that? It's either that or a power line.
And the ones that are the Happy Jack fire, the 139, those are the only two they said were caused by humans. I'm surprised. I thought Smokey the Bear said it's our responsibility. Well, what the heck? Look at that. Only you can stop forest fires. Well, no. Also, I guess modification could. Just have to, I guess, spray something or something. I don't know. And then let's update this wind map here. This looks far different. I mean, it's definitely it's more oval now. I guess you see the red area, which I still don't know what the heck that is signifying, has now moved inland. That is one thing that has changed. It was out here on this peak. Now it has moved in. So this is the wind patterns for Milton. And then let's talk about the volcano. Let me load this up real quick. Let's see. So this is something that my wife pointed out. She was watching this, and scientists deploy monitors at Washington volcanoes amid, let me get rid of strange lady there, amid unusual earthquake activity. So they had such unusual earthquake activity that they ended up putting out these kind of last minute monitors. And this is something that's been happening all along the West Coast in the last couple years. So not only that, say like in Moclips, Washington, they have 24/7 monitoring in a place that never had it because they're watching for major seismic activity. I mean, gosh, what if on top of all of this, I mean, it would be insane. But what if on top of, say, North Carolina, all of this, then all of a sudden we had a disaster like Cascadia happen? I mean, geez, 2024, hopefully 2024 ends before any of that happens, because it really seems like 2024 has been an insane year. But I am thoroughly expecting 2025 to be even crazier. Imagine if Cascadia or any other major earthquake happened right now, what would FEMA do? If they're already saying that the current events that are happening are causing huge issues, I couldn't imagine something that would wipe out the entire West Coast. Now they're saying there's only one nearby permanent seismic monitor. In response to the increased activity, scientists have decided to install temporary stations in the Mount Adams area. It says the new stations will allow researchers an opportunity to better assess the significance of recent seismic activity. Right now, there is no indication of the level of earthquake activity is cause for concern, according to the United States USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory. Findings from the rapid deployment instruments will determine if USGS and Pacific Northwest Seismic Network need to take any additional actions. So we'll be following this. Mount Adams is ranked as a high-threat volcano, meaning it obviously has a higher probability than some of its neighboring volcanoes. It is also the second highest mountain in the state of Washington, and it is potentially active stratovolcano in the Cascade Range. So hopefully something like that doesn't happen, because gosh, we already have enough on our plate. All right, and then Dex, I think you had a couple things that what do you want to highlight? I guess what we should go over next.
Yeah, I've got 3 of the hurricane tweets highlighted for you.
All right, so let's see here. All right. Let me load this up. Let's see here. All right, let's go over this first one. So, do you want to talk about this and how they got this?
Yeah, so this looks to be captured by in the Gulf of Mexico during Milton today, and I believe it says there was something like 66-kilometer wind gusts and almost 8.5 meters wave height. So that's what it's like. You had mentioned earlier, I wonder what it's like out in the water. Well, there you go. That is, I believe that was called Sail Drone from NOAA, and they put that out into the water to get some measurements and to see what the experience is like. I'm sure they've done this before.
Wow, that's I guess, and then out of this you could have a rogue wave hit. On a big ship, I bet even waves like this, not bad. Anybody that's done commercial fishing or watched, The Deadliest Catch, these probably look small, huh? But as far as, would you want to be in that and then have a rogue wave hit? All right.
Wasn't that like 20, if it's 8.5 meters, isn't that like
24 feet?
24 to 25 feet at least? Yeah, that's pretty big for a wave.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not a 100-foot wave, but yeah, if that's consistent, wow.
No, I mean, those are giant waves, but yeah, I'm sure those crab fishermen go through those quite often. I don't know. Is that bigger than what a crab fisherman would go through? I know we've got a few here. Feel free to pop in and answer. All right, and then let's see here. We've got. So this is crazy. So I did not know that this happened because I don't live in a place where we have hurricanes. But Dex, do you want to explain what they do for the horses and why this is kind of crazy?
In many cases, wildlife is better, or not wildlife, but animal life, except for like dogs and cats. It's safer to turn them out and let them fend for themselves, because it's not safe for them to stay in a barn, which would probably not withstand the heavy wind and rain. So you'll see, as depicted here, presumably this is from the hurricane, as they're saying, you paint the horse, you put your phone number on it, you put in identifying information on it, and you turn it out so that it can do its best to survive on its own in the open area and seek shelter or swim through water or do what it needs to do. And yeah, they pretty much just take off because they're probably as freaked out as you are too.
Now, as far as I wonder, this video went absolutely viral, not only on TikTok but on Twitter. I wonder if that. I mean, I bet that's a real phone number. We didn't show the whole thing, but God, I just wonder how many times that person is getting called. And what's really crappy is we live in a world where I bet you a bunch of trolls are going to end up calling their number, saying, "Oh, I have your horse right over here." It's like, after an event like this, you would think that people would be decent enough not to. So, I did not know that. I've seen that in a couple of shows and movies, and honestly, because hurricanes are not something anybody on the West Coast really experiences unless, it's in a movie or a show. So I've seen a couple things. I think whatever show was done, that firefighter show, where they told them to release the animal and they didn't want to do that or whatever. But it's like, I guess it does make sense. And horses are, in nature, these animals, a lot of these animals, they know how to survive better than we do. Not to mention, they have senses that we don't. Do horses have a natural sense? Do they often get away with this? And how many of the livestock like this ends up perishing? If you own livestock and horses and things like that, I'm assuming you can get insurance on your livestock. So if you do lose horses, then I'm sure there's probably an insurance for that, right? But I would assume that's not a fun thing either way.
Well, in events like this too, there are tons and tons of other animals, especially dogs and cats, that, owners they don't take with them, for various reasons, whether it's impossible for them to, or they get separated from them. But there's always a influx of, dogs that are displaced from their families. Think about many people that tried to evacuate, and if they have a handful of dogs, but know that wherever they go, they may not be able to get a room because they may not be allowed, and they may not be able to find shelter for their animals. So some people leave them behind and wish them the best. It's an unfortunate thing. I'd never want to think to do that myself, but that kind of stuff happens. And after these events, you'll see for the animal lovers out there, there's always a need for, help for the animals.
Now, this is the Tropicana field. And the most insane part about this is where the emergency management, the Florida Department of Emergency Management, was set up. This was the base camp for the Milton emergency management setup. And the roof is being torn off. So you can see there that parts of it are missing. You literally have chunks of the roof torn off. So not a great scenario, and especially when you might have had people that thought, this was going to be the spot to be safe. Meanwhile, the roof ends up flying off.
And for those who don't know, that is in St. Petersburg, and it's where the Tampa Bay Rays, the Major League Baseball team, plays. And yeah, it was the base camp for the pre-work before they came in. Obviously, they didn't continue to camp there because it was the direct line. But yeah, the irony is this was the location they did all the staging work from, and now the roof is coming off.
I wonder if they're going to use that for the Tampa Rays. They're going to, I guess, raise the roof will have a different meaning. It's technically, at least the roof is not on fire. All right. And let's see. Let's go over here. And then I'm going to open up. Let's see here. Let's go over to the other radar. So this is the National Weather Service radar. So as you can see, it looks much different than what we had at the start of the show. But what you do have is look at the size of this thing. That's so incredible. So when you have it looking like this, and then we'll go back to the wind patterns here. What are they calling it now? Can we confirm what this is at now and what the wind speeds are at? I know we had a flash flood, and I'm going to check on the Tampa Bay. I'm going to actually open up and see what is going on with the flash flood warning, and then it looks like there was one more warning, and there was something where the emergency services could not respond, or emergency services went out in one of these places. At least that's what somebody was saying. So let me see if we can find this out. Let's see. Jeez. Gosh, there's just so much craziness going on here. Holy moly. Let's see if we can translate this. Double disaster. Hurricane Milton made landfall tonight near Siesta Key, Florida, as a Category 3 storm with destructive winds. Rains at least somebody is saying, in addition to at least 170 tornadoes. I believe that's wrong. Governor Ron DeSantis, JB called Milton the storm of the century. Well, I don't know. I think which one is going to be doing more damage. That's the thing. We don't know. But short clip here. Just look at that tree coming down like it's butter. Like somebody sliced it. That lightning, it's kind of crazy because that's the ground view of what we were seeing earlier with this whole, let me show if you just joined us. See if I still have it up here. Yeah, this was satellite or ISS, I'm assuming, or CGI, who knows.
So as of the 11 p.m. update, it was saying it had a maximum sustained winds of 105 miles per hour, and I believe that would put it in the Category 2 scale. So still a major hurricane, or still a Cat 2 hurricane.
Now, Foogle family, is there any updates from you guys? If you want to pop into chat. Tammy, are you still there? I know that we had some folks in there that were giving us some info from there. Tammy, you told us about the Tampa Bay, obviously getting drained, sucked dry. Let's see here. Said 170 tornado where the palm tree fell. Oh, well, and it's translated, by the way. It could have been the translation, not the person who said it.
Yeah, the big report that everybody's getting hung up on is 120 warnings that went out across different areas. But as of now, it's about 19, maybe a couple more that actually touched the ground.
Yeah, no, it's so a lot of people are going to get confused. I'm sure of it that TikTok is going to be full of videos saying that there's 170 or 120 tornadoes. And yes, yeah, I do know Goose. I've known Goose since he was a tiny channel. I was on D Live. We were both on D Live when he had a YouTube, but he didn't know what he was even doing with his YouTube. He went from doing gaming streams to then doing crypto Batman, and then at one point I'm pretty sure he was almost about to give up. Now he's at in the last 6 months, he's now at over 1 million subscribers. So he made it big, and I think big part of that is TikTok, and he went on different platforms and he didn't give up. So he is definitely somebody who is he's on camera, very, very comedic guy. Off camera, he's actually a really nice guy. He cares about his family a lot. I think at the top of that list is his new kid, and then his wife. They're a really, really cool family. I think his outside persona would give people the wrong idea of who he is in real life. He's genuinely a caring, super, super awesome guy. Not that he's not in his videos, but you wouldn't guess that he's just, super, super, super nice. All right. And let's see. Now everybody recognizes him. He can't go anywhere without people selfie with him and stuff. He's literally famous now. So yeah, I'm super, super happy for him. I knew he was going to be. I could see it from before he even did it. I told him to be himself and it would come, and that's exactly what he did. All right. Eric Spracklin. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to pop open. I'm going to actually see if we can get any breaking news on this. Let's go over. I'm going to see what there's actual images coming out. They don't have any kind of, there's no estimates. I don't see anyone perishing as of now. But I'm sure that this storm is
there is from the tornadoes. for sure.
So-
with that elderly mobile home park that was taken out.
Do we have a death toll from that?
I don't have numbers other than they said that there were perishings.
Oh man, that is really, really unfortunate, and I'm hoping that this ends up being the only people that have perished. So let's see. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Let me see. Okay, there we go. October 9th. 2 large tornadoes producing supercells are moving north in southern Florida right now. How often did they get tornadoes? I know where's most known for tornadoes? The Midwest? But how often does Florida get a lot of tornadoes, or is that something that's more rare?
No, they get them with hurricanes, and they do get them with storms, but they're not massive. And a lot of times when you see them in Florida, they're what were called water spouts. It's when a tornado's out over the water, and it's just, sucking up water and throwing it out. And it looks pretty impressive, and it looks cool, and it's not like the big, massive tornadoes you see in the Midwest where, these big monstrous F5s. They're little skinny tornadoes, and I've seen those before in Florida, and it's kind of cool to see. But yeah, to the extent that they get them, they do get them. But again, they're not like big F5s. They're usually, with a storm, and definitely it happens, with hurricanes. That's not an uncommon thing. I probably think Georgia might get them a little bit more than Florida, but they definitely get a lot of water spouts. That happens quite a bit.
But I wonder if they get ones like they got today. And what were those even ranked? Like some of those look massive.
Yeah, I think that's an extreme. That's definitely an extreme because of the amount to have that many. And again, I don't think it was 19 F5s, but it don't have to be. 19 F1s is a big deal. An F1 can be just as nasty. So, but yeah, that is not the norm. It is normal to maybe see a tornado or two with a hurricane because of the massive storm that comes with it. But it is, it's not normal to see 19 or even more. No.
Gay Republic just posted this. Wow. So this is a top of the building crane in St. Pete. And look at this. It has crashed off of the top of the building and is now crushing a building. I remember a few years ago in Seattle, one of these building-mounted cranes ended up I think it was one of those that's halfway up the building. It ended up crashing down, and it took a life. I want to say, and this is like Darwin Award, not even Darwin Awards, like the craziest ways to die. This guy was sitting in his apartment and perished. Like, I think the guy in the actual crane lived, but the guy in his apartment watching his TV didn't. It's almost as bad as, like, I remember, 20, 30 years ago or something when I was a kid. There was a bus that went off the Aurora Bridge, and it went right into an apartment building. So it went off a bridge and not into the water, but before it, into an apartment building and took lives of people in their house. I mean, imagine sitting in your living room and having a bus come through your living room, or having a freaking crane fall through your house. I guess I had nowhere near a similar experience. I had a tree during a storm, November 2006, come into my window. But I mean, gosh, imagine losing a family member to something like that. That is crazy. Those cranes are serious business. So I am surprised that that wind was strong enough to knock it off of the building. And then the battle against...
And Adam...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Stephen McGance is off to work prayers for all in Milton and the Helene, I think he meant North Carolina, Helene, and try to catch what's left of the show on my tablet. Love y'all. And then Tammy had another update. She said here in Tennessee, so that's where she's at. Milton looks to me like it's hovering on land now. And that's kind of what you've been saying, Adam, when we keep watching this. It moved in pretty quick. I mean, we were expecting it to be later in the evening, and as we started the show is about the time it made landfall. But that eye just hasn't really moved much. It sort of got on land and it's just taken its time. It seems like it's going a lot slower in its west to east movement than it had earlier in the day, which was in a hurry to get over to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember when we were talking before the show and you said, well, landfall is 6 or 7 hours out. And then in an hour, it was like it's about to make landfall. I mean, what was there any explanation for that too? Like why all of a sudden it just sped up and hit it so fast?
Well, to be fair, I was speaking off of old data in my mind because I hadn't looked at the latest at that time. But yeah, as of this morning or last night, everybody was saying it was going to hit at like 1 a.m. Eastern time tonight, and here it was, about 10 or 9 East Coast time, somewhere in that time frame is when it hit. So yeah, that was a lot sooner than they were forecasting. So it did seem to make its way across the Gulf, at least that last bit, a lot faster than people were thinking. But now I'm just looking at the wind map. It's just sort of stuck there. At least the wind circulation hasn't moved much. It's just outside of, just south of Tampa and just outside of St. Petersburg, at least the top of it right now.
Yeah, there's some pretty bad memes coming out right now. Sunshine Furniture tipped over here. Hurricane Milton strikes Florida, causing widespread damage and chaos. Yeah, that crane, those things are really strapped on, so that's pretty incredible. And then this was 5 minutes ago. Tampa area is facing a potential 15-foot storm surge with Hurricane Milton. Here's a video of a similar surge in Fort Myers during Hurricane Ian. So this is actually an old video. Let's see. Holy moly, that just went to 0 to 60 in like nothing. This is 1 minute and 53 seconds. Okay. So this is 1 minute later. Man. So, okay, this is actually a really great example of how storm surge. I'll go ahead 10 seconds. This is 10 seconds. I mean, just like, that's insane. You go back to the beginning and it's just like, that's storm surge. So I don't think you can even see that building anymore. So that's how serious a 15-foot storm surge could be. And that was a almost the same numbers we're talking about. And it looks like, yeah, in the comments, they have, yeah. So it was almost the exact numbers are being predicted for this one as Ian as far as storm surge goes. So, yeah. Let's see. And let's see if we have And I think that we're really going to need to see tomorrow where a lot of this ends up going. Some of the craziest videos that happened today were from these tornadoes. And I would love to hear the explanation. How often does that happen? Dex, I mean, does that happen in big hurricanes? Is this something that you always get small tornadoes on the outlier of a big hurricane?
Certainly a possibility, because the hurricane is made up of bands, or it puts off bands of wind, and that those bands of wind are bands of weather activity, and it's severe weather activity, and inside those severe cells that make up that certainly can be tornadoes, and it does happen. But again, having something like 19 is significant. It's not typical. I mean, we don't hear about that just because a hurricane comes in. You have 19 tornadoes. You do have tornadoes, and it does happen. But yeah, that just seemed like a lot today.
Yeah. Well, we'll end up updating you guys. We'll mostly have, I think we'll have more of a finished update tomorrow. On our regular show, we're going to have the rest of the story tomorrow as well. We'll be compiling, if you just joined us for the first time tonight, normal shows. Again, you can see any given example of that if you just go to marfooglenews.com. You can actually go here. Not only can you find today's show, but you can also find all of our other shows that we have done. Now, when you click on today's link, of course, there might be updates to that. There will be updates to that. And again, you'll be able to find stuff. Normal shows, when you go to our website, you will actually be able to see the show. You can click here and watch it there in the browser, or you can go down to the bibliography. So you'll have a full list of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are talking about here today. I did want to bring up this. This was that Helene thing. This got updated so many times. And really, there's still no confirmation of like why. This helicopter ended up doing a rotor wash on the supplies at North Carolina. And it just adds to the 50,000 things that ended up happening during the rescue and during the response to Helene that just doesn't make sense. And, you know, they're trying to make it sound like if you criticize the response that you're some sort of crazy nut. But at this point, there are enough witnesses, there's enough people, and I think they honestly, if there were anybody that was living through this thing and that was supporting the current admin, I don't know if they would be after this. Especially, sometimes it's better to say nothing than to make the comments that some of them have said. Sometimes it's just better to not. And they'll get criticized for that too. They'll get criticized no matter what they say. So I understand that. And too, you know, you're going to get criticized no matter what you say, being a major politician. But sometimes it's better to be criticized for saying nothing if you're going to say stupid things like they've said. But that's just my opinion. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. We'll quickly go over to Jimmy's, we'll refresh this Jimmy's Crow's Nest and see if it does load, and it is out. So that is a good sign that things are not going well there. Maybe they lost power. This was earlier today. And after that, it went out. So it is out. This is the same thing that we have seen many different places. We'll refresh this one. Oh, wait a second. Whoa, wait. That's underwater now. That is underwater. Wow. Okay, so you see it now and now. The water's right up to here. Here. Wow. Look at that. That's water. That is majorly flooded. So yeah, and that was live before it went off, and that was Scuffed Radio. And again, that is their live storm surge. That link is going to be over, so you can go over and watch that for yourself. And then University of Tampa. Let's update this one. Yeah, you can't see much, can you? So that is in near downtown Tampa. And it looks just as bad as it did an hour ago. If you go back earlier that day, obviously not too bad of a day. It's a wet day. And then all havoc. Well, if you guys want to join us for the next show, make sure to do so. All you have to do is tune in tomorrow night. Tomorrow's show, again, you can find us and any updates over on marfooglenews.com. Usually our shows are anywhere from 7 to 8. The only reason they've varied so much lately is because of my own work and everything that's going on. So thank you guys for not only showing your support tonight, thank you for sharing this video out, and thank you for bringing in new people. If you would like more live coverage on breaking events like this, let us know in the comments. And of course, if you would like to cover any other subject, let us know in the comments. If you see something that you want us to cover, you can also email me at adam@marfooglenews.com, and just make sure to put "cover this" in the subject line. Again, cover this, and if you want to put whatever the subject is, cover this, airplane story, whatever it may be, you can describe it there, and then I will be able to find it. Dex, any closing remarks about Milton and what's been going on and everything that's happened?
Yeah, it's not over. This fact that this eye is just sitting here slowly drenching everybody, I think that's the biggest concern. There's a lot of rain built up in this storm, and it'll be continuing to pull a lot in off of the Gulf. So, pray for everybody that's out there, and I hope that they weather it and get through it, and I hope the rebuild is quick and speedy, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be pretty nasty, especially on the heels of Helene.
Well, you have to imagine the people that are there right now, they're going to have to go through this. And if it's hovering like that, if you see it, why is it staying? How is it? Can I ask, how is it even staying in the same spot like that? I thought this thing was supposed to.
Well, it's moved a little bit more. If you refresh, it's almost starting to touch the center of Florida. But man, it moved really. It's been moving a lot slower on land. Which, to some extent, you can understand. It hits the land, it gets friction. The friction's, there to hold it back. That's also why the storm weakens and goes slower, because there's no fuel from the warm water fueling the storm, and all of the friction of the land slows the wind down. But at the same time, that eye is just moving. It's really creeping across the state. I would expect it to move a lot faster.
You know what I would think is, you would never want to experience it, but to be in the eye of the storm, to be in a massive hurricane, obviously to survive it, be somewhere where you could have the eye come over you and then be able to step outside to almost like it's a normal day. And then see all around you a 360 of this just nasty storm. I guess the best most of us will ever see, the closest to that would be in a movie. But it would be something to live through. It's kind of like, a bad car accident. Nobody wants to see one, but nobody can look away either. And that's what I think that this is going to be. And hopefully this doesn't, what is going to be the response to this? That's what we're going to be covering tomorrow too. What will end up happening after this passes through? What are the numbers going to be like? Is there going to be a lot of people that perish? And either way, how are they going to have money to actually fund this? How are they going to have money for anybody that has just lost their livelihoods because of this? People that lost their cars, their homes, their everything else. And then the folks that, for whatever reason, didn't have current insurance. It's hell on earth for people that are affected by these things. Dex, go ahead.
Stephanie Munoz made a good point, and I should have remembered this from the tales of the hurricanes that my friends and family have been through. But hurricanes do take a lot longer on land, which I was talking about. But she said, I've been through so many, I went outside in the eye. So for those of you who don't know or have never experienced a hurricane, in the center of the eye is this large section, depending on how big the eye is. And it's peaceful. It's calm. You can look up and see blue skies typically. Not tonight, it's dark. But during the day, you can actually go out, and people will do that. And they tell you, if you do it, be careful, because the backside of the eye comes on really quick. And before you know it, you're stuck back right in the midst of this nasty hurricane. So you get that, if you're in the path of the eye, you get that break for just a moment as the eye wall moves over you, and then it opens up. And it's like this really neat experience, scary experience, but it is an experience that you can actually go out and look into and see the center of the eye wall.
I feel like I have to rewatch Twisters again too. Feel like because in that movie they didn't make it about the Great Change. In fact, they got criticized for it, that they didn't use it for a platform for change and a platform for a voice. The director, one of the guys who made Twisters, said that movies aren't for politics. Like he goes, I'm not going to make a movie to basically push something or to, for it to be a platform. A movie is a movie. You go to a movie to get away from all of that. So I really do love that. I watched it just because of that. I thought the first one was actually better. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was younger and the first Twister movie it had an impact on me because it was the first time it was done. But with today's day and age, it's like we've just seen so many movies with tornadoes and things, and they've done it every which way. But that first time seeing it, when back then the graphics were incredible, it was crazy to see it. Now we've seen Geostorm and all sorts of movies. Every end of the world movie has tornadoes and things. So other than that, it would be the plot. And the plot to Twisters wasn't fantastic. I mean, girl meets guy, they're both opposite and they like each other and they're in the middle of storms. I thought it was okay. It was a good movie. But in that movie, they show all these tornadoes popping up left and right, like blah, 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 blah. In this, it's like to have 19 tornadoes pop up all around the edge of it on land while it was still off of there. I don't know. There was something about watching that earlier that just was absolutely insane. And gosh, they're gonna tell us that this is gonna happen more. And what if it does? And what if it does? Would you say, oh, that's because of them? Or either way, then that means we're expecting more and more and more of this. And then until what? So if it is true that those things are not happening because of a certain reason, then really think about that and think about, the fact somebody would pull the trigger on something like that. But if they are going to happen either way, and say they are somehow right, that the natural thing, so say if this is a cycle our Earth is in and it's about to get a whole lot worse, I mean, just imagine all of the crazy weather events in the future. And then there's been clips now recently. The former head of the CIA came out and said all of this really, really shocking stuff, talking about how, they're looking into the future and saying they basically need to buy time until we can get off of fossil fuels and stop the planet from changing super quick. And to do that, it's going to be one of the most expensive operations we have ever seen in the world. And I'm thinking that's if that just now starts. If you are somebody who believes it's been going on, then think about if it costs $10 billion a year to do it on that level, then it almost makes sense why we're $35 trillion in debt. Which a big chunk of that, remember, quite a few years ago, they were like, hey, we don't know where any of this went. They lost like several trillion dollars. Wasn't it like they couldn't explain $21 trillion or something? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, it does make sense, especially, every other week we're like, oh yeah, by the way, there was an accounting error of $6 billion. How do you do an accounting error of $6 billion? I mean, come on. People aren't stupid. Well, I guess they are, but they're not as stupid as they think. And there's not as many stupid people as they think. Even if they're stupid, they probably have intuition, and that intuition overrides their intelligence. So, well, thank you guys, and we'll be giving you a full rundown of what the results are for tonight and what happens. And if you are in the middle of the storm, email us tonight, and we will get your stories out there. If you have video, you can go to marfoogle.com/playmyvideo. In fact, if you go to the main site, you go to play my video, you can submit your video right there. It's really easy. Just upload it to YouTube. Extremely fast, extremely easy. And then put the link on here and just check a couple boxes. and then we can play that tomorrow if you have that. If you have crazy video on your Ring doorbell cams or your garage cam or something, let us know. Send it to us. It's not as hard as you'd think. And then, of course, just put which kind of it is, weather, this, that, whatever, and then we will have it on the show tomorrow. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And again, our normal show will resume tomorrow. Of course, we'll have a Milton update. We'll have a North Carolina update. And we will have a world update on all of the rest of the story that the MSM probably won't tell you. So, thank you guys. Thank you, chat. Appreciate it. Everybody here. Michael Kozlow, Randy Newman. You guys have a great night. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.